Hello, class. I want to go over some things with you for our first class. Normally, I'd love to give this lecture face to face with you. Unfortunately, we can't do that, so we'll do it via YouTube. You are always welcome to ask questions. Please use email and use only your Harper email account. Do not use something like Comcast. It won't be opened, it won't be answered. And when you do email me, always, always, always let me know what section of the class you're in. Today we're going to talk about comparing familiar art forms, landscapes today, in different media. If you don't know the words I'm using, please look them up, like media. That would be in the book. Please make sure you do read the book and the associated lectures for the week. Hopefully, there are things we can dispel with what we look at today. Suppositions like what we call certain forms of art, the names we give them, what good art is, what bad art is, what art is worth personally or in dollars. Conjecture, things like guessing, assuming, speculating, and inferring when there's nothing implied. Prejudice, like I know what I like. What I like is fine art. Don't tell me what to like. Well, the author has often stated the purpose of this course is not to make you like something, not to say uh, you love it. You might say, I hate that. At the end of the class, we hope you can say, I hate that, but you know what? Now I understand it. That's okay. You can like what you want to like, but be aware that there are some things that go with that. Let's look at something else first. I want you to answer this question in the first extra credit. I will post in the Blackboard classroom. And what I want you to do is not overthink this question. It's very simple. Keep that in mind. What is this man looking at? You simply answer. He is looking at blank. Very easy. What is this man looking for? Don't take on the world of art when you try to answer that question. Very simply, what is this man looking at? Well, let's get to some landscapes. This would be considered a classic landscape painted in the 1800s by an artist named Bierstadt. Uh, Contemporary of his went on and how this is a wonderful rendering of the Rocky Mountain landscape. Nothing is further from the truth. The mountain in the background is based on the Matterhorn in Switzerland. He painted these after taking a trip out west, but he used sketches and things, and certainly he used his previous knowledge of mountains and things in uh, Europe, not what's in the United States. The purpose here was to make people out east think that the land we stole from the Indians was really super and really play it up. Let's look at something though here. Um, that's what the area he named it for looks like. Landers Peak doesn't look like this. These huge, huge snowy mountains like that. That's not what was there. So, one thing you can dispel right away is that when somebody paints something, what they are painting looks exactly like what was there when they painted it. Not the case here. This is something I also wanted to get to. This is very, very naive art, not very well done. I get other people though that say, well, gee, I really like the colors. I think that the composition is good. Maybe it is. But let's look at some other things along the way other than the Bierstadt that we just looked at. This is Bob Ross. He is one who inspires paintings like we just saw. Does he use uh, trips out east and out west to do his stuff? Well, when he did his show, he painted his painting based on a painting he already had sitting there in the studio. He was looking at a previous painting to do it. Let's look at somebody else's that's painting. This is Andrew Wyeth. This is called Christina's World. It's a landscape, but it's more about her. We'll talk about it later. But one of the bravest and most moving stories is in this. Not all art is that way. The other purpose of the pictures we've looked at differs. This is about this woman. We'll get to that in the class, hopefully when we meet face to face. This is a drawing by an artist named Higginson, and by golly, he does use his cell phone to do drawings. He will set it up and dial in a photo that he's taken on his cell phone and then make his drawing. Is that cheating? Well, not really. Let's look at Bierstadt. This is the painting we looked at initially, and if we look in the lower left corner, we see a camera. He took a photographer with him. A guy named Muybridge went around, and when they got back east, he printed the pictures and gave them to Bierstadt and said, "Here you go." He's noted for the start of motion pictures too, but that's something that's been used ever since it's been available. Leonardo da Vinci used the camera. This is Van Gogh. A lot of people look at it, well, there's not much there. Well, certainly his style is well developed over the years, and this is definitely one where we can see these massive brush strokes. The clouds are swirling. It's not something that's intended to be photographic in nature. This is by Ralph Goings, kind of a cityscape of sorts. We see a lot of his pictures are like that. The only aspect of the land we see here are the palm trees sticking up. And if it looks photographic, well, that's probably because he bases his watercolor paintings like this on photographs. Uh, Getting into something that's very, very current. This is done by a dear friend of mine, Miguel Apaza, who lives in Spain. And this is called Piedra Alta, a high stone. And this is a watercolor he did very recently, and I'm just enamored with it. This is something I like very much, and I think he deserves a lot of praise for that. But what I wanted to get at is something like the Van Gogh that we looked at back in the 1800s doesn't look anything like something done in 2021. Very nicely done, Miguel. We tend to think of landscapes as paintings. This is something else I wanted to interject here. This landscape is one that's constructed. This is by an artist named Smithson. This is called Spiral Jetty. The rocks and everything you see out here, uh, he built up. He did it. For the most part, that's not there now. Over the years, it's worn away. It wasn't intended to be permanent. Um, but that's one way of altering the landscape to make a landscape. This is another. This is Andres Amador, who takes a rake out onto the beach and rakes patterns into the sand. At the end of the day, they're gone. People are saying, "Are you kidding? You do it, and you know it's going to be gone." He says, "I do it. I enjoy it, and when the tide comes in and washes away my artwork, that's okay." Very much like some monks in the Himalayas who uh, do artwork that they intend will be gone, like sculpture made out of butter. But this is something very interesting. He's got a lot of interesting artwork. We can get into photography now. Here's a Weston picture, excuse me, Ansel Adams photograph. Certainly something that came about with a lot of photographers is that they started doing landscapes. Just seemed to go to it. A lot of 1800s photographers did that as well. This is a picture by James Balog. He likes to go up into the Arctic near the North Pole and shoot ice. Very nicely done with the sun coming through this huge block of ice, seeing things that we may never get up there to see. This is probably better called a cityscape than a landscape, one with a huge expanse of sky for us to look at. And this is one that's more of a fantasy, something we can see that artists are capable of doing now that we have some really fantastic tools in Photoshop. In this, it's kind of a seascape as well. And that brings me to the last one for this particular lecture. This is called Rhine 2. That's the Rhine River. And it suggests that uh, the image is not the first one the photographer did. This is done by a photographer named Gursky, Gursky. I spell that out because the other part of the extra credit, other than saying what the man is looking at, I want you to tell me how much this photograph sold for. And that will be in the discussion board shortly in Blackboard associated with your class. That's where we're going to start. Make sure you do read the chapter and read the uh, lecture that's in there, posted already as well. Thank you for taking the class, everybody, and have a wonderful day.